Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. This is the time of year when I am begging for summer to start. I am begging for nicer weather. I am begging for an ounce of creativity. Okay. I know this isn't everyone's experience, but for me personally, winter is hard. And it's not even winter, it's the darkness mixed with the cold, mixed with just this energy that's very hibernating, which is totally fine. But when you're someone that can't work based on the seasons, obviously, I still gotta do stuff all year round. It can be really, really hard. And I started to feel like I was in a funk towards the end of January. So I've spent the last month trying to work on or get out of my funk. So I wanted to share my tips and tricks with you. And of course, this doesn't have to be for wintertime. You can use this whenever you feel like you're in a funk. These are probably going to be tips that are different than what you may have expected. These are more lifestyle changes that I've done more than anything, but that have really helped me because, there's so many things that can affect us being in a funk, whether it's what we're eating, what we're drinking, how we're acting, the work that we do, the environment we're in. There's so many different aspects. These are what worked for me. Obviously, take it or leave it. I'm not a doctor. Some of these things will be more medical related, but this is what was important to me. This is what worked for me. And I want to share really what I've been doing to try to get out of my funk the last month. So the first thing, which again is more like a health issue more than anything. And obviously you can skip this, but I did want to share. And I was thinking about where I could share this because I do think it's an important part of me and what I've been going through lately. And I think it could be helpful for people. But, I don't really talk about these things generally on my platform, but I do think it could be helpful. So I really wanted to share it in this podcast episode. I thought it was a great way to do that. So generally speaking, I would consider myself quite a healthy person in the way I live my lifestyle. I move my body daily. I eat mostly whole foods. Fun fact about me is I love to cook, and I cook pretty much 99% of the time. I probably cook 2 meals a day. Lunch and dinner is cooked, whole foods that I eat. I take supplements, I meditate, I've removed a lot of the toxicity from my home, including the cleaning products. I don't light candles that are toxic anymore, even though I love my Yankee candles. I love the smell, but it was just not working. I got a non-toxic, or I guess they're called low toxic because they do technically have perfume in them, but a low toxic perfume that I really like. So I've really just made such a conscious effort to create a space for myself and nourish my body in a way that works for me. And this is as someone, and I've kind of mentioned this before, is I've had a lot of issues with my weight. I've had a lot of issues with my health over the years. I was sick a lot, sinus issues, strep throat all the time, just feeling down a lot. I've had a lot of health issues. I'm intolerant to dairy, and that took a while to figure out. There was just a lot of things, and I've pretty much, for the most part, kept most of these things in check, but I still haven't been feeling 100%. And in full transparency, last year in the summer, I went through a really rough patch where I was just not feeling great. I was losing my hair. I had a lot of acne on my neck. I just had a lot of symptoms that were just very strange and very intense, ones that I've never had before. That's when I started researching. I started taking a bunch of supplements. The majority of them really helped, and I feel a lot better, but I still haven't felt 100%. And I'm someone that likes to advocate for themselves. I do a lot of research on things. I'm really interested in health and different things that go on with your body and really being in tune with your body. And so after a lot of research, I ended up getting a bunch of blood work done that I felt was necessary. And then I took that and went and saw an endocrinologist. So something I've always battled is an issue with my blood sugar is it would drop really easily if I hadn't eaten, or if I don't eat the right kinds of foods, I would feel really sick and my blood sugar would drop. So I've always had an issue with this. And I finally, after a lot of research, I got my insulin and glucose levels tested. I did a bunch of other blood work, and then I ended up seeing an endocrinologist. And she basically told me that I probably have insulin resistance, and I also had an issue right now with my thyroid that it wasn't working properly. So it's just to say, because like sometimes you could be doing everything right, which like I really am, and we still aren't seeing the results. Like I'm not seeing the results I want. And it's not about a number on the scale. That's not my focus anymore, but feeling like, I don't always have the energy that I want, or feeling sluggish, or having brain fog, like things that actually affect my daily life has been really hard for me to manage. And when winter comes around, this just amplifies tenfold, right? Like I'm already prone in the wintertime to being tired and irritable. So having these other symptoms just makes it even worse. So because of this, I've been working with my doctor to really deal with this. And while I'm only about a month in, or a few weeks in, I would say, I am seeing positive results. I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm going to go obviously for a 3-month checkup and then see what happens. But these things take a lot of time. So no major like updates in that area, but I just wanted to share that because I think that it's important that sometimes it is about going to see a doctor, right? And I'm someone who believes in holistic medication. I believe in, healing yourself from within. I believe in listening to your intuition, but there are times where you do have to go see a doctor, and I did. I found one that I felt like had really good reviews. I felt like she really listened, and she wasn't just going to prescribe me a medication without talking to me, and she was really going to hear me. And sometimes it is about that, and that is what I needed. And I did need to add supplements, and I did need to take medication, and we'll see how it pans out. But in my case, it was really important that I saw a doctor. So just, for everyone as well, sometimes it does come to that. And if this is something you're more curious about, or you're more curious about my journey, let me know on Instagram or in comments on YouTube. I would be more than happy to talk about this. So let's talk about some of the other things that I've been doing to try to get out of a funk. So moving my body is one of the most important things I've been doing. And as someone who has always gone to the gym, right? Like I played competitive sports for 13 years. I've always gone to the gym. I've always been really athletic. Like that's normal for me. But there's a difference between like going to the gym and working out and then moving your body. And I didn't understand the difference until very, very recently. So I would see all these people online, and they'd say things like, oh, I'm just going on a walk. I'm moving my body today. Like it helps clear my mind. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I never understood that. I would be like, okay, going to the gym, you do that to get fit and to, be fast and have endurance and stamina and things like that, not to, feel better like mentally. I didn't really understand that concept. And so now I do, and it's really become a part of my daily routine. And I don't go to the gym. Maybe sometimes I do, but I don't go to the gym just to get the workout in and to build the muscle and whatever. Yes, that is a part of why I go to the gym, but it's not the only reason, right? And I do different things, and I move my body in different ways to help me. So I started incorporating weight training back in. I had a back injury in September, so I took a break. So I've been incorporating weight training back in, which helps with my insulin resistance, which, I was just diagnosed with. It also helps with building muscle. I go to Pilates. Pilates is really great. That's really helped with my back injury. It also is really great for my nervous system and to build my core muscles, which is super important. I walk almost every day, unless I'm doing some other sort of cardio, but I walk. That's really helped me in terms of, getting my steps in, obviously, is positive, but I listen to podcasts. I can really be creative and think of new things. It really helps clear my mind. I've also started to incorporate spinning classes back in because it's something I used to love to do, but when my cortisol was too high and I was so stressed all the time, it wasn't right for me. But now that I feel so much better and have a more regulated nervous system, I can do those high intensity workouts. And I don't do spinning every day, but maybe once a week is something. It's great cardio, and I actually do feel like it clears my brain. So now I'm moving my body more so that I can feel a certain way rather than have a quote unquote result that I want. And while, I would love if my body could be stronger. Again, I'm not saying lose weight, do all those things, because that's not my truth anymore. While I do want my body to be stronger, I also want to make sure that I am listening to my mental health as well. And this has been such a game changer to me. And again, even if you're just stretching for 10 minutes, going on a walk for 10 minutes, you don't have to do high intensity workouts. Like if you're not a gym rat, if you're not someone that likes to do that, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to. I'm someone that, did play sports, and I was really into the gym, and I know what to do in the gym, and that feels good to me, but it's not the case for everybody. So you got to do what works for you. Another thing I did, which, just trigger warning, I'm going to be talking about alcohol if anyone, feels triggered by that. So I stopped drinking alcohol last year in August. And this was really interesting because when I was a kid, or like when I was a teenager, I was never interested in alcohol. And I would always tell people, oh, I'm never going to drink. Like I'm going to be the person that doesn't drink. My aunt doesn't drink at all. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be like her. Like I'm not going to drink. And then when I turned 21, it became interesting. And I did spend the next 10 years drinking. And in Europe, it's pretty easy to drink because, you don't really drive anywhere. I live in a big city. I didn't have a car, so I would just take public transport. So it was never an issue of like, oh, I have to drive or whatever, and it's just part of the culture as well in Europe also to just drink. And I never had an issue with drinking. I just want to make that clear that for me, it was never about me having an issue or going overboard. That was never a problem for me. But I started listening to a lot of research on alcohol. I realized, especially now that I'm in my 30s, like I do not do well with a hangover. It is miserable, like actually miserable. And not only do I feel bad the next day, I feel bad for days after. And if I'm thinking about, okay, what are my goals? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? And I'm thinking about, okay, I want to have energy to do my business, to be creative. Alcohol was not allowing me to do that. And then also my blood sugar levels, which I mentioned earlier, have always been an issue. And drinking alcohol just really spiked my blood sugar, made it drop really high, it was just a whole issue. And I would always feel bad for days after. And I would have massive hangover anxiety. If you haven't heard of the term, it's hangxiety. Like I would get anxious the next day after drinking. So last summer, I had really been thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I think I want to quit drinking. And, it's not as easy as some people may say it is. And I want to validate that it is hard to stop drinking, especially when you're in all these environments, weddings, parties, gatherings, like people just have alcohol everywhere. And it's very easy, quote unquote, to just drink. And I had just decided, and I just felt like more and more shitty after each time I drank. And last August, we went to 2 weddings, 2 weekends in a row. And I just decided, okay, these are the last 2 times I'm going to drink. I'm going to have fun at both of these weddings, and then I'm going to be done. And let me tell you, I I definitely gave my all at both the weddings. Let's put it that way. I wasn't out of control or anything like that, but I gave my all. Quite hungover the next day, which was not fun. And I just decided that was it. I got married in October, as many of you know. I had 1 glass of champagne. It wasn't worth it, to be honest, because I felt the next day that it was anxious. Like, yeah, it tasted good in the moment and I was celebrating and it was fine. I don't regret it or anything. But, I just didn't feel like it really did anything positive, and I haven't drank since then. And, I was worried. I will be so transparent that I was worried about how it was going to affect me in group settings, about how I was going to feel. My husband's younger than me. He has a lot of friends that are younger than me, single. They love to party. We go out sometimes, especially in the summer. I like going out in fun situations, going to concerts, clubs, whatever. Like, it's still fun. I don't do it a lot anymore, but, it can be fun. And I was worried how I was going to feel. And granted, we haven't had summer since I technically stopped drinking, but we have had situations where we were out with our friends in bars, things like that. And I was worried how it was going to be. I was worried how I was going to deal with a bunch of drunk people. I was worried if I was going to be able to hold a conversation, which is super interesting because before I started drinking, when I was 17, 18, 19, 20, and I literally wouldn't drink at all, I would be the girl dancing on the bar, stone cold sober. Right? Like, I was so confident. I did not need a drop of alcohol to have fun, to interact with people. So I was thinking in my head, okay, why do I feel like I need it now? Right? I also feel like alcohol was kind of a hindrance for me. Like, it was almost a safety blanket. And I also felt like it was enabling me so that I didn't have to try to have more intelligent conversations with people or have interesting conversations with people. So I'm also sort of using this as a test to become more interesting. I know Tinks talks about this. If you guys don't follow Tinks, she has a lot of great tips on things like this, but she had talked about an episode about how to be more interesting. And I just think that this is going to help me be more interesting. So I've just made that decision. And, it's not to say I won't ever drink again, but I just don't feel like it. And it doesn't help me. I don't think, there's no health benefits to drinking at all. And I'm really about having my mind spiritually, physically, just mentally feeling better. And I've noticed that since I've stopped drinking, I've been, and okay, just a warning, this is going to be very spiritual, but I've been more in tune with like spiritual aspects. I've been dreaming more intensely. I get downloads more. I felt some sort of like, I don't want to call it psychic abilities, but I've always had some like psychic abilities. I see things, like I visualize things sometimes before they happen, and it's become way more intense since I stopped drinking, which I've heard other people talk about as well. So that's something that I've been doing. Another thing I've been doing, which has always been a priority for me, but I've just been making sure it's an extra priority, is prioritizing sleep. I am someone who needs a lot of sleep. For me, if I get 6 hours or less, I am a demon. Okay. You do not want to be near me if I get less than 6 hours of sleep. And I'm also someone that if I'm really tired, like if I slept 1 or 2 hours, I physically could not be able to stay awake. And people would always get mad at me at this because like, why can't you stay awake? Let's party. Let's do this. And I'm like, guys, I physically can't stay awake. Like you could give me 10 gallons of coffee right now and I still wouldn't be able to. And I actually did research on this. And there are people who just have a more strict circadian rhythm and produce more melatonin and just physically can't stay awake. So I'm like, okay, that's me. I schedule all my plans around my sleep. Okay. If I have to be up early, I won't go out the day before, vice versa as well. I prioritize my sleep hygiene, so making sure that I'm in a physically comfortable environment so that it's not too hot, that I'm comfortable, that I'm reading before bed because that helps me rather than being on my phone. I don't eat sugar before bed because I mentioned I have like a really unstable blood sugar, so I don't eat sugar before bed because that really messes with my sleep, unfortunately. So like if I want to have a treat or something, I'll try to time it like after lunch is usually the best time for me. Anyways, that's a whole other issue. So there are so many things that I watch out for, but for me personally, like for me, sleep is the most important thing. I'm someone that doesn't drink caffeine at all, not in the form of coffee, tea, matcha, nothing. I'm very sensitive to caffeine. I don't drink it at all whatsoever. So for me, sleep is the way that I am personally able to really feel good and have energy. It helps me concentrate better. I don't get brain fog. I feel totally clear. And I also have less anxiety and stress. So for me, sleep is always a priority, and I will put social programs and things into my calendar according to like how I want to sleep and making sure that I can sleep. Another thing that I do that I've talked a lot about before is cycle syncing. So cycle syncing is for those people that have a menstrual cycle, and it is basically tracking your menstrual cycle. There's 4 phases in your menstrual cycle, and basically your hormones vary in each cycle. So you want to live your life a different way in each part of your cycle in order to accommodate that. So for example, when I'm at the end of my luteal phase, which is just right before your period, I'm naturally more tired, sleepy, I have less energy. So I allow myself to sleep more, to rest more. I typically work less. I have less intense, work calls. I minimize going out with friends during that time. I just really want to focus on being at home, walking, eating grounding foods, and just focusing on myself. And then when I'm in my follicular phase or ovulatory, which is like my most energetic part of my phase, then that's when I actually work like twice the amount. So like if you looked at my work for the whole month, I get a lot done. It's just not equal every single day, so to speak, because in my follicular and ovulatory phases, I'm working a lot more and doing more things. That's when I like to record my videos, do my podcast, things like that, right? And this has helped me be more productive, but also give myself grace and not feel like I'm being less productive when I'm actually, not as energetically in tune, let's say. Another thing I've done, which I sort of already touched on, but just to have its own separate section, is spiritual work. So I'm not religious, but I am spiritual, and I believe in, the universe, and I believe in energy and all of those things. And I took a break from meditating the last year. Last year, at the beginning of the year, I was going through a really hard time. I was losing my grandmother, who I was very, very close with, and I was doing a lot of meditating to try to regulate my nervous system because it was extremely dysregulated. I was just in a really bad place, dealing with everything that she was going through and being there like literally on a daily basis. It was extremely taxing on me. So I was doing a lot of meditating, nervous system regulation, and I sort of, after that time had passed, I think I was just so dysregulated that I just stopped doing all those things, and I just wanted to rest and like calm and kind of get back to myself. And so the last month or so, I've really gotten back into my spiritual aspects. I got some oracle cards because I felt like my tarot cards were a little dark for me. And my friend, who's also super spiritual, and she's actually a card reader, medium. I don't know what she would call herself in English, but she sees things and she can tell people what she sees and read energy. And she suggested these oracle cards that were very much, they're water based. And I'm someone that loves water, because I was telling her, I'm like, I love water, obviously the ocean, like she knows this about me. And she was like, oh my God, I have the perfect cards for you. So I got these oracle cards. They're so beautiful and I really feel really connected to them, and it's very interesting. And I've been doing more, meditation and breath work and stuff. And I've really been trying to tune into my intuition, because my intuition is always right. And I'm using my intuition to get clarity on next steps, which has really helped me sort of focus my energy and reprioritize what really feels good so that I can try to get out of my funk as well. Another thing that I've been doing is trying to do fun activities. So I am a certified TV lover. Okay. I love watching TV. I'm addicted to TV. I love binging TV. Bravo is my favorite, all the things. But it's not always the best thing to do. So my husband and I have been doing other things like playing board games. We got these like question cards. We did Legos together, trying to do fun activities at home in the wintertime that is actually going to bring us closer and sort of up our dopamine. And this has actually helped with us feeling more connected to each other, helped with sleep, with creativity, just feeling lighter, especially like when it's dark outside really early. And this has actually directly impacted how I work and what I do, and it's had a positive impact. And then sort of the last thing, which I think is important, and you can do this kind of all year round, but I think in the winter, especially when it's cold, this is good to do. So I love doing micro adventures. That's like the term that I found online, micro adventures, like going to a coffee shop and just having a coffee, or doing a small activity during the day, like getting a cookie or something, like, doing something fun. We got a membership through my husband's work where he got a gym membership at this gym that has a sauna and jacuzzi. So we would go there on the weekends and we would literally sauna and jacuzzi. We did that yesterday. It was so nice. We just had the best time and we just chilled and relaxed, right? And like, this is something that we could do together, something that, normally you wouldn't be in water or jacuzziing during the winter. At least we wouldn't be unless we had this opportunity. And it's just like really created this calm, regulated our nervous system, helped us kind of feel good about the situation and sort of the energy that's happening. So those are sort of the tips and tricks and things that I've been doing recently to try to get out of my funk. And I feel like it has been working. I definitely think obviously once the weather starts to turn, which fingers crossed is going to be super soon, but I'm really excited about it. And hopefully, it's going to be something that's going to get us out of it. And I've already started to feel so much better. So while you take these tips or not as is, try to think about in your life what could help you bring you out of a funk, what could help you to feel more better. It's really about tuning into your intuition and what works for you. So think about what that is. I hope this episode was helpful, gave you some good insights. Again, I'm always open to talking about more personal things. I just don't know if y'all are interested, but let me know again, either on Instagram in the DMs or on YouTube comments. I'd be more than happy to talk more about these topics. And if you like this episode, please give it a 5-star review wherever you're listening. This helps boost the podcast and I really, really appreciate it. I hope y'all have an amazing week. Sending you so much love, so much positive energy, and I'll catch you in the next episode.